Hi guys, my name is Megan Johnson and I did my midterm paper on dissociative identity disorder. Throughout my presentation, you're going to see these really cool images that I found of artists who portray dissociative identity disorder through various paintings that I thought were really interesting. Dissociative identity disorder. So what is dissociative identity disorder? Dissociative identity disorder, previously known as multiple personality disorder, is the development of two or more distinct personalities within one individual. Interestingly, some research has found that these personalities have distinct autonomous features like age, capabilities, memories, accents, handwriting, medical conditions, and even allergies. The onset to the disorder is strongly correlated with both physical and sexual abuse in childhood. In fact, 71% of patients with dissociative identity disorder have experienced physical abuse in their life course, and 74% have a history of sexual abuse within their life course. Interestingly, research has showed that diagnosis of DID, or dissociative identity disorder, is higher with clinicians who utilize trauma-informed care within their practice. So this just shows that trauma-informed care is very much important. So the DSM-5 criteria. Here's just another picture that I thought was really awesome. So to see DSM-5 criteria, the DSM-5 criteria can be found for dissociative identity disorder on page 292 of the DSM-5. There are 5 specific measures for diagnosing dissociative identity disorder. The criteria stipulates that in order for the diagnosis of DID to be made, an individual has to function within 2 or more discrete personality frames of mind. This interpretation of personality includes disruption in an individual's idea of self and concept of one's own actions within the world. Included in this criteria is changes within an individual's capacity of functioning. To quote the criteria, this means alterations in affect, behavior, consciousness, memory, perception, cognition, or sensory motor functioning. These symptoms can be reported by both the individual or other parties. Along with these symptoms, an individual has to show specific memory loss that is not a normal habit of this individual. This includes continual memory loss with sizable gaps in daily functioning, unable to remember permanent, private information, and not being able to recall prominent traumatic incidents within a person's life. In order to diagnose these symptoms, the symptoms must impair an individual within society and occupational context on a daily basis. Importantly, symptoms must not be features related to cultural norms or practices. Finally, in order to diagnose the symptoms of the disorder, the symptoms cannot be related or associated with medical or recreational drug consumption, or cannot be associated with other medical conditions. So differential diagnosis. So I put this warning sign up because I wanted to warn you that, well, there is a lot. As you can tell, multiple disorders have common symptoms with dissociative identity disorder. So it's important to understand that these symptoms overlap. And some of the research that I found, the researchers believe that this is the reason that dissociative identity disorder isn't diagnosed very often because it's sometimes misdiagnosed as all these other disorders that have similar symptoms within it. Okay, so the history of the disorder. So the construct of dissociation was developed by French psychologist Pierre Janet in 1924. Pierre developed this theory that the state of consciousness in which portions of an individual's personality were classified into unreachable sections within the brain were considered to be ideology of dissociation. So this was the first time that theorists actually talked about dissociation. Dissociation became commonly known when it was introduced by 2 American psychiatrists, Thigpen and Checkley. These psychiatrists unveiled a case in which a patient exhibited multiple personalities. It was the development of this case that coined the phrase multiple personalities. Interestingly, Hollywood had a really big impact on the development of dissociative identity disorder and the awareness of it. Thigpen and Checkley's case on multiple personalities was actually made into a book and movie called The 3 Faces of Eve. I just really liked this movie poster because I thought it was good example of how dissociative identity disorder was portrayed by the media. It says, a moment ago, she was the nicest girl in town. A moment from now, she'll be anybody's pickup. So years later, the book and movie Silby, which told of Silby, which told the story of an individual suffering from multiple personalities, brought the disorder back into the limelight. This book and movie combination is credited with bolstering the public's awareness and interest in this disorder. One research article I found said that after Silby came out, the amount of diagnosis for a dissociative identity disorder actually increased. So even today, DID is portrayed within the media. The movie Split that just came out is a good example of that. I'm going to show you a clip from the 2007 film right now. It will be interesting to see what you guys think of its portrayal as future clinicians. I'm just going to start it.
I think you have the wrong car. You've emailed for an appointment 2 days in a row. Tell me what's going on. I've never seen a case like this before. 23 identities live in Kevin's body. Did something happen?
There's a flower on the pillows, a flower in the bathroom, like we're important. Who is that? Maybe she can help us. We're here! We're here!
Don't worry. He knows what you're here for. He's not allowed to touch you. He knows that.
My name's Hedwig. I have red thugs.
How old are you?
9.
The human brain is the most complex object in the universe.
The only way we're getting out of here is if one of them decides to let us out.
Aren't you the clever one?
Hedwig, could you help us?
Okay. I have a window in my room.
Maybe you could show us.
Oh, that's here. Now it's closed. Now it's open.
Did you think it was a real window?
So you could leave?
An individual with multiple personalities can change their body chemistry with their thoughts.
Someone's coming for you.
What will happen when he unlocks the potential of his brain?
There is no limit to what he can become.
Okay, so there's the movie Split. I actually went to go see it last weekend. I think that is an interesting portrayal, and I was surprised to learn that the project, through doing this project, that they were pretty accurate in describing that different personalities can have different mental illnesses. But I think that it does a bad job of portraying the disorder overall. I think that it makes the disorder seem like people have violent features or are common to violent acts, when in fact that's not even a symptom of dissociative identity disorder. So I think that's interesting how Hollywood had a major impact on this disorder. Anyway, back to the history. Finally, in 1994, dissociative identity disorder became known as dissociative identity disorder. It switched from multiple personalities to dissociative identity disorder in the DSM-4. They found that this was a better fit for the name for the disorder. Back through these pictures. Okay, so the construct around the features that make up dissociative identity disorder are tainted by a lot of controversy. So first there's the DSM. The DSM's version of what dissociative identity disorder, which is that dissociative identity disorder is defined as multiple personalities or persons cohabitating together within one individual, as I talked about before. But then there's these other theories that kind of go against the DSM, which is the idea that some theorists believe that in the theory of single self with dissociative identity disorder, which says that dissociative identity disorder should be treated as an authentic disorder. They believe that it is a disorder, but that it should focus on the idea of single self and not multiple personalities. That the clinicians should instead understand that the individual contains only one personality or single self. That an individual only withholds one set of memories and experiences. That it's theorized that the single self suffers from disruptions in consciousness that impacts the individual's behavior, which is what causes the behavior. Similar to conventional or the DSM theory of dissociative identity disorders, the single self does believe that this behavior is happening as a result of trauma within an individual's childhood. But single self believes that the individual develops DID as a way of coping with inner conflict in relationship to past events. So the difference between these two is DSM believes that it's multiple personalities, while single self says that it should be treated by thinking that it's only one personality. And then there's the other theory, which I call the Academy Award-winning acting, because it's kind of more extreme. So this extreme theory thinks that the symptoms of DID are so unusual in nature that the only explanation would be that the person is role-playing or being dramatic or acting out these symptoms, and that the acting is the negative product of therapy techniques. I just thought that was an interesting theory. So this theory believes that it's not a disorder at all, and that it's just a person acting and portraying because of what they have heard in therapy. So treatments. So as you can see, there is a lot of wide range, treatment encompasses a lot of options, but the most common would be psychotherapy. So this evidence-based practice is used for treatment of DID. In this treatment, the therapist aids the client in identifying triggers and constructs in innovative ways of dealing with stressors. The clinician works with trauma-informed care. Through this treatment, the therapist is able to speak to an individual's various personalities. In fact, discussion between alternate personalities is a major construct of this treatment process. The therapist is supposed to facilitate positive communication and organization between an individual's multiple identities. Psychotherapy treatment for DID needs to be implemented within a phase or stage-focused methodology. So, but what works best? What do the clients like best? Well, so I found an interesting article. Jacobson et al. Did a study that actually interviewed clients with DID and asked what they thought treatment was, what aspects of treatment were most helpful and what qualities in a clinician were helpful. And I thought it would be important to share this with you guys because you're all going to be future clinicians. So not surprising, a lot of clients reported that treatment that was most effective was when therapists used trauma-informed care, grounding techniques, implemented unconditional positive regard, promoted sympathy, and of course, were empathetic within the treatment process. And this is just another really great image that I liked that I found that I thought was really beautiful. And then here is all my references. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I can't wait to see you guys' videos. Thanks!